Welcome to the Compressor Guru. We are so happy you joined us today for this episode. We have a customer who caught lightning in a bottle, so to speak. It is absolutely amazing that this machine was still in one piece when it came to the Compressor Guru. Please watch carefully as he shows you what had happened and what normally would have happened if the customer had not been paying attention. Enjoy the episode, and we'll talk again at the end.
Welcome back to the Compressor Guru. Today we have got an episode that's kind of like ice cream. You know how ice cream, you get it and it doesn't seem to last very long, but it's really sweet? That's kind of today's episode. There's a couple things we're going to talk about today. Well, we're going to do a little bit of work, but we're going to talk about this particular pump. This is a 2545 compressor. It's an Ingersoll ram, and I'm going to show you a picture of another 2545, and you're going to see where that 2545 has a centrifugal unloader and some lines, control lines, all plumbed into the end of the end plate here. That 2545 came off of a model 2545V Victory, and what the V stands for is value. This 2545 came off of a 2545E, which stands for economy. So there's no suction unloader on the intake, and there's no hydraulic unloader for the discharge, and you have none of the control lines. And that's the way they cheapened this particular 2545 up to appeal to the economically minded, but it's still a quality compressor. It just doesn't have all the bells and whistles. Now, this came from a customer up in New York. He found us through the Compressor Guru, and he decided that he didn't want to tackle himself. It needs a complete rebuild, but the reason we're going to do a complete rebuild is ancillary, word of the day, Val, before you even start.
Ancillary.
In addition to.
Are you going to put that on the screen?
I think I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Spell it correctly.
I will. I'll look it up. I don't spell well, folks. Anyway, it started knocking a couple weeks ago, and he's like, what is that? And he actually dug into it himself, and he took this plate off, and he found the problem. I'm going to show you the problem, and what is actually so interesting and sweet about this. You've got to come back for the rest of the episode for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to tear the end plate off, and we're going to get to it. So I got my trusty old impact wrench here, and there we go. We have the cap, and you'll remember, and I'll show a picture, but you'll remember on other 2545s we've done that there were governor weights in here. This doesn't have the governor weight. This has a couple bolts, and the customer already took the wire off them. We're just going to buzz those bolts off. And remember what the rule is. It's okay to tear them apart with an impact. It's not okay to put them together with an impact. Are you ready for your treat of the day? Here it is. So the customer sent me a video of this, and he said, is this where my knock's at? Can you see the rod bearing bouncing? You can even hear it bouncing against the rod. It is that loose. Now here's what the special treat is. Normally when compressors come in, The average customer would have run this for another week, wondering how long that knock's going to last, and he would have blown the rod out, maybe both rods, and he would have sent me in a piece of, well, it would have been just as repairable as this one, but everything would have been in pieces in the crankcase. So that's the unusual thing about this. We actually see a machine with loose rods before they took the crap. We're going to continue with our teardown. We're going to turn the cameras off. If I find something else unusual, I'll turn the camera back on. So we're back. The machine's tore down. We have found some interesting damage to this. And the damage is caused by the most plentiful liquid substance on this earth, water. And you may go, how's that machine get water in it? It's a totally sealed machine. This is a 2545 Ingersoll. It's internally breathed. You are correct. I'll get to that in a minute. But you can see the rust in this cylinder. This is the low pressure cylinder. The high pressure cylinder doesn't look as bad. When we looked at the housing that holds the main seal, this is a long-term thing. This didn't just happen. And the low pressure piston skirt has a lot of damage. And that damage doesn't happen if you have oil without water in it. The wrist pin in both the high and low pressure pistons need replaced. I didn't take those apart. We don't have new parts yet. But we showed you, here's a close-up of the connecting rod bearing. In my parts book it calls it a cap rod bushing. But, and the extreme wear that happened inside of the connecting rods where it goes on this bearing. And now here's what happened to this machine. This is much more common with the 2545s than any other Ingersoll. These are a 10 horsepower electric driven compressor, and we've talked about condensation before. And what happens is the compressor runs in the morning, heats up, shuts down, and they need a lot of air from time to time. But it doesn't need air all the time. If this compressor runs all the time, it doesn't condensate any water in the oil. But the atmosphere that has moisture in it, you know, the humidity level, when this machine runs in the morning and it runs for 20, 30 minutes and then shuts off for 3 hours, it cools back down to room temperature. When it cools back down to room temperature, some of the humidity that was hot now condensates water, and you get a drop of water in your oil. And then when you start it up again, maybe it cycles again at noon and does it again, and then tomorrow morning you do it all over again. In a couple of weeks you got an ounce of water, and that ounce of water destroys bearing surfaces, destroys the lubrication that this aluminum needs. The steel holds up better, and we don't have to replace the steel piston, but we do have to replace the aluminum piston. This cylinder will clean up, but we have to replace the piston. The evidence is here that the water's here, and the customer told me that the oil gets foamy, and he hasn't had this compressor but a couple months, and he's changed the oil a couple times, but he has a low usage situation and a big compressor. These kind of problems that happen with compressors that are bigger than you need constantly cause condensate problems. I've got 2 other customers that have large compressors, and they need a lot of air for short periods of time, and there's a long time between the run times, and they both have water issues in the oil. Now we've developed a way to drain that water out, and I'll show that to you in another episode. I think we'll take the camera out on our PMs this year and show you that customer, and we'll be doing their service work in November. So we'll get that solution out to you. When this goes back, I'm going to make sure the customer knows the solution to this and gets it plumbed up. Years ago, Ingersoll made a crankcase heater that they had an element that went inside that turned on to keep the moisture cooked out of these type of problem machines. I don't know if they make that anymore, but that heater 30 years ago was a $600 item. So you don't really want to use them. You don't want to buy one unless you really need one. This guy really needs one because he's going to have, $1,200, $1,300 in getting this back. So this is a rebuild that didn't have to happen because of water condensation in the oil. Folks, thank you. God bless. Have a great day. This other than this water, this is the average 25-45 rebuild. You guys have said we want to see more rebuilds. You would get bored with my channel if I showed you me rebuilding the same machine over and over and over. So when I run into differences like this one, we're going to show them to you.
Now,
what?
This guy, he took really good care of his compressor, though.
Yeah, he didn't have it that long, and he bought it from a widow that her husband had, and he didn't have it. He didn't run it much.
And it really looks like the outside of it looks like it's in really good shape. So even though he was doing the right things, he needs something else added to it so that he doesn't have this problem consistently.
Yes, and I tell you what, since we're talking about it, I'm going to show you how little time is on this compressor. This is the high pressure valve plate. Those valves are almost perfect. There's no time on this compressor. It has not run much.
We're going to have to get this one fixed a number of times.
No, I'm going to give him the solution.
Oh, because you are the compressor guru.
Yes, and in November, we're going to show you the solution on another compressor that has the same problem. And it is running every day and maintenance right to cover this problem.
Okay.
So that's it. Strange situation. Out of all these machines that we have out there, this is only the third one that has this particular issue with condensation in the oil. God bless. Have a great day. Go watch another one of my episodes.
We told Chris that we would put his information up for you to view. If you are in New York and need some aluminum welding done, Chris is your guy. Check out his information.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Compressor Guru. Please hit like and subscribe and use the notify bell so you will know when the next new episode is released from The Compressor Guru. God bless you and have a great day.